After weeks of playing hooky, the Sean arm of the laws finally brought him back. Back in detention, it's Sean.
I don't even know why I'm here, man. I never get caught. You can't prove anything.
We have it on tape. Anyway, we're back in detention. I'm Dan.
I'm Joe. Who uses tape anymore?
I'm Brian.
I'm Sean, and you can use duct tape for almost anything.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I'm Ashley, and I agree with Sean. Duct tape for everything.
So for those of you who are new or haven't been following our social media, Ashley has been running pretty much all of our stuff for us because we really don't know what we're doing.
Oh, neither do I. Not at all. I just pretend I know what I'm doing.
But you're better at it than the rest of us.
Thank you.
So she's here.
Yay.
And she's real. Frankie and DJ aren't.
I'm glad you could finally come to terms with it, Dan.
It's a loss, but we'll all get through it.
We're here if you need to talk, you know?
Guys, DJ lives in the basement.
He's out being a spoopy, scary person right now. Scaring little children.
Ashley believes that he's real.
Scary kids scaring kids.
Oh, yes. Scary kids scaring kids? Is that what you said? I like that.
That is what he said.
Like 4 kids?
Name of my next hardcore band.
I think that is a band.
Scary Kid, Scary... Is it really?
How many band names do you have?
I have quite a few. Quite a few. Would you like to hear them, Dan?
I would love to hear your band names.
Would you like to hear my band names? Okay. Let me pull up my notes on my phone. So I have a list of bands that I'm going to randomly form, I guess, someday. Let me just go down the list here. Starts off with Knife and Onion. All of these names start off by sentences that have been formed throughout the summer of 2016. Knife and Onion was when I was trying to cut an onion for fajitas using a plastic knife. Very difficult. I do not recommend it. Not safe at all. I have a slight scar.
Tears for 2 reasons.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Ooh, that's a good one. Tears for 2.
That's going to get added,
That's going to be added to my band name. Tears for 2 reasons. There's Milk Drip. I don't remember the story of that. I might have gone to a farm.
Every day at work.
Yes. Falling Down Again. You know. Dashboard Banana.
Oh, I like that one.
Day Old Meat. Featuring our man's Palpatine. And what is he going to do with that Day Old Meat, Joe?
Do it.
Thought so, that's right. Cold Popeyes, that's just depressing in and of itself. 2 Lights Down. Elbow in Wet. I don't remember that. I think that was when I was here last. Hand in Beef. Phone in Coleslaw. And the newest edition today, thanks to my friend Dan here, Down by My Asshole.
So that's clearly a punk band.
We were thinking blues.
Like bluegrass type stuff, like...
Oh, blue asshole.
Blue man punk, essentially.
Blues and bluegrass? Is that like...
It's a funny story, really. Because I have a seatbelt extender in my car because I drive a larger vehicle, and the seatbelt buckle on the driver's side is kind of like buried in under the console. So I have an extender, and the extender came in a set of 2. So I have a second one for the passenger should they so choose, and it was just kind of hanging out on the seat, and I was picked Ashley up for recording, and she found it. And I was
very confused. I was like, why are there 2 seatbelts here? And then I picked it up and it just came out, and I was like, oh, I'm just holding the seat. That's the opposite of what I want to feel when I'm in a car. Like, oh, I don't feel safe at all with the seatbelt in my hand, not attached to the car.
So I had to justify my purchase, and I used the frame of reference that it was easier to buckle something by your stomach than it is to buckle something that's tucked down by your asshole.
And then it just hit me like a train, just down by my asshole.
Came in like a wrecking ball?
Came in like a wrecking ball. Mm-mm.
I hate that I love that song.
I love that song. It first came out, I paid $1.29 to own it. I don't care. I have no shame. $1.29 in iTunes? No, I had an Android at the time, so it was like Google Play Store or something. I cried, not gonna lie. Few tears. River City. Population my eyes for a little bit, you know.
Knife and onion, right there.
Knife and onion right there.
Onion.
What did you say? 2...
Tears for 2 reasons.
Tears for... Oh, God. That's
Is that
such
like a
good...
Tears for Fears cover band?
Yes. Tears for 2 reasons.
They play everything 2 octaves lower.
Oh, jeez.
Now, would Tears for 2 Reasons be a cover band for Knife and Onion?
Ooh. But Knife... No, so Tears
No,
for...
Knife
Tears
and-
for
Knife and
Fears,
Onion-
Tears for 2 reasons, Knife and Onion cover band for Tears for 2 reasons. But 2 bands. 2 bands come out of Tears for 2 reasons. Knife and Onion, and then, like...
Knife and Onion is their side project.
Yeah.
But they got their start as a Tears for Fears cover band.
Mm-hmm. I like where we're going with this. This band is actually my band. I'm just trying to inform you guys of that band. Please join it.
Yeah, Tears for 2 Reasons, it's gonna be the name we use if we ever get around to making any of those musical parodies we sometimes talk about. So yeah, that'll...
Woo!
Copyright infringement.
Hold us to that, because I'm sure we'll forget. Joe, you said you had a topic or two that you were itching to bring to the classroom, because...
Well, it's kind of a topic. I brought it up with you guys before, but never on the podcast before. But it's kind of one of my favorite philosophical experiments.
Oh boy.
I was
Bring
just
it.
thinking about it while I was stuck in traffic the other day. It's called the Ship of Theseus. I'm getting some puzzled looks, so I'll
Clearly
go ahead
the
and
audience
explain.
can see that.
Yes, clearly. The Ship of Theseus is the thought of, okay, so there's this boat. It's called the Ship of Theseus. Thus the name. And it probably belonged to Theseus at first. That's where the name comes from. But anyway, after a long, hard voyage at sea, it comes into port, and it needs to get some repairs. Some of the paneling has rotted, needs to be replaced, put some new paint on. A couple years later, the mast breaks. So they have to go rip out the old mast, put in a new one, new sails, everything. A couple more years later, the oars need to be replaced because they're just starting to get rotten and no good anymore. This keeps going on for a great length of time until eventually you get to the point where no part of the original boat is still on the Ship of Theseus. So that being said, considering it's made out of completely new materials, maybe not all at the same time new, but still new, is it still the Ship of Theseus?
I would say yes.
Well, the question is, what makes it the Ship of Theseus? Does Theseus own the ship?
Well, we're going with the thought that it is just the name, the Ship of Theseus.
Oh, that's just the name, the Ship of Theseus. Well, I mean, you could make the argument that as the years go by, the pieces that were replaced, earn their home on the Ship of Theseus. So as the new parts come in, the other new parts are getting older, and thereby kind of earn their place on the ship. So it still gets the name, because by some association, it had some relation to the ship of old.
Very good point, very good point. The reason this is a fun topic for me is because it actually ties right back into the human condition.
Oh.
Because about every 7 years or so, you have a completely new body. Just old cells die off and are replaced by new cells.
Well,
I read that. in
to
a
an
book.
extent.
To an extent.
Your skin will do that. And
Your
other
skin,
certain
several
parts of
organs.
your body will do that.
Yes.
Your heart and your brain will pretty much never do that. Your eyes will stay the same. So you'll always have at least a few parts that
Are
are
original.
almost, if not completely, original material, unless you were to have, like,
Well, still,
transparent or something.
the individual cells that make those things up will still degrade and be replaced. Just because of the life cycle of a cell.
Well, that's
It's,
the thing.
it's almost completely instantaneous, though.
That's
Well,
the
not
thing, though.
instantaneous, but-
The life cycle of those particular cells. Because the reason that cells do that is because most cells have this sort of basically programmed suicide for cells that will cause them to die off at the end of their cycle. Whereas your eyes and your brain and your heart don't have that. So
Okay,
they
well,
will
that is-
actually not naturally replace themselves.
That is actually something I did not know. However, shut the fuck up because you're ruining my...
Science versus philosophy,
Yes.
folks. So if we're
The
talking
point is, you do not have the same body you had when you were a child.
Right.
Are you still you?
You're a different.
Or are you a new collection of cells and organs that just retains the memories of that previous incarnation of you?
Maybe not. Because we don't, or at least I don't retain all of the memories I had from back then. I also feel like, just based on personal experience and growth, I am completely a different person in and out than I was, maybe say, 7 years ago. So that's really interesting to think about.
I'm going to take this in a completely different direction and point out that there's actually a real life example of this happening right now with the warship, the USS Constitution, and that it is, as it is still considered active duty, it is constantly being repaired and retrofitted, and now there's a group of workers and naval historians who are combing this ship, which is one of the old Ironsides, to see if there is a single piece of original material. And it's funny that you bring this up because I was literally having this conversation with a history professor of mine this morning on a boat, no less. So small world. But as far as a direct answer to your query, I don't think you can really quantify the human body as a singular existence just because of the nature of the human body. It's not. So many different systems exist at so many different times that all have a different purpose. It'd almost be more accurate to say that the human existence is just a collection of smaller existences working in unison than it would be to say that you're regenerating every 7 years, to be brief.
Oh, that's entirely true. But so much of the human condition is based on this first-person perspective that actually doesn't exist. Our personalities are based on several different personality synapses firing, and it's kind of a gestalt of that. That's actually where dissociative personality disorder comes from, is that union of voices doesn't always happen as well as it should. So yeah, we are technically gestalt organisms that way. So, but because we have this interpretation of the first person, so much of our experience is derived of I am me, and I have been this me for, in my case, 27 years. And so I am the same entity that has existed from day one all the way to now. But scientifically, philosophically, growth of my own psyche and physicality, that is not true. So it just raises a very interesting philosophical and dilemma, and you can even extrapolate it even farther for now that we're getting a much more closer bond with technology. There's the concept of cyber immortality these days that, people are starting to play around with. And so would an uploaded computer version of your brain still be you?
See Deus Ex, see Chappie, see all of those
See
things.
her.
See her, yeah.
Which then almost
Ghost in the Shell, too.
Which then almost ties into the idea that if you can upload your brain into a computer, why can you not then download your brain into another body?
For that, see Ghost in the Shell.
I mean, because that seems to be the logical conclusion. Because if cyber immortality exists, then why is a personality no more or less downloadable than Windows?
Yeah.
But would you want two beings with the same... with the same downloadable...
If the human brain has the capacity for what they speculate it does, and we use percentages of it in theory, whether that may or may not be true, what have you. That's what, well, that's what I had always been told, so that's what I'm familiar with, so that's what I'm going off of. Whether that is or isn't true, whatever. For this theory, deal with it. So let's say we are using 5% of our brain at any given time. I know. But just...
Sharp inhale, because I hate that pseudoscience, but...
Hypothetically.
I know what you're talking about. Please
So,
continue.
that means, for this hypothesis, there's 95% of free space. If there is a readily available body from whatever reason, maybe trauma, reset, maybe cloning has become a thing. It gives you the ability to then continue growing, developing, learning, and existing in times that were not your own. So think of what you could learn or experience.
Is there enough space to download games in there?
Oh, that'd be fucking rad.
I don't know.
Don't need a VR device anymore. Just download them directly to your brain.
How many gigabytes is the human brain? Is the question at that point.
How much DLC is there?
Oh, is it paid? No, it's definitely paid. This is real life.
Have you seen the microtransactions involved in IRL?
There is no season pass, folks.
Damn it.
It's all a la carte.
No Brain of the Year edition.
I prefer the brain age myself, but...
Rimshot.
Now, completely unrelated, but it was a word you said earlier, gestalt or gestalt, or however that phrase is pronounced. I can't see it or hear it without being reminded of personally one of my least favorite entries in a franchise, Final Fantasy XIII, because the summons have gestalt forms.
Now, this is interesting because I'm on team 13 wasn't that bad because I did 100% it. So,
Of course you are.
I'm just gonna throw that out there. I didn't think it was terrible.
To be fair, I did not finish it. I got stuck at what the internet seems to consider to be the worst boss in the game. But that boss completely ruined my experience with the game. And up to that point, I hadn't been that impressed with the story or the combat system. So I just kind of made the decision to drop it.
Well, I mean, I think that auto battle is a terrible idea. I think that even though the story wasn't great, it had decent character development, and also, you're right, that boss is terrible.
Are you defending Hope?
No, actually, Hope is the last thing I'll defend. Which gets even worse in the, there was only ever one Final Fantasy 13. I'm just gonna say that.
Really? Because
Right now.
I'm pretty sure there were two more of them.
Oh, no.
Evening returns.
With no context, the fact that hope is the one part of the game that I'll never defend sounds pretty
Deep
funny.
ass crap. Wow.
Sounds very different, I'm sure. Although I assume Hope is the name of a character.
Yeah, he's a little kid with slight mom issues who uses a boomerang.
Oh,
But
same.
are his mom issues as bad as Sephiroth's?
Oh no. Oh, never.
But he is the most useless character in the game, at least at the part where I was. And he's very poorly written.
Oh, he's the
And
best healer.
Not at that
Arguably.
point. Not at that stage in the game, anyway. Maybe
Um,
I built him wrong. But he was useless at healing, and he's your only ally in what is probably one of the worst bosses I've ever faced in gaming.
Okay, in 13-2, one of the bosses is the Tomato King.
I hate tomatoes.
Tomatoes are delicious.
Really?
His actual name in game is His Royal Ripeness. And you're gonna tell me that the original Final Fantasy 13 was terrible?
His
I
royal
never played the
ripeness.
sequels because I couldn't get through the first one. The Proto-Florian ruined that game for me.
So, is his royal ripeness as secretly badass and hardcore as, like, say, a cactuar?
Okay, to put it this way, apparently if you did not stop his Royal Ripeness, he had the potential to destroy the entire, not just that world, but everything. You can lose the game if you don't deal with his Royal Ripeness.
That's magical.
How do you defeat him, though? Do you, turn him into ketchup and just put him on a hot dog or something?
Well, I
I like
would
corn
hope
dogs
so.
more, but,
Oh, corn dogs are legit.
I could fuck up a corn dog right about now.
I'm glad you added up to that. It was about to be a very awkward statement.
Dan and I had this conversation earlier.
Remember, these podcasts are PG-13. That's what we strive for and rarely succeed.
Sorry, Mom.
A for effort.
My mom won't listen to
Yes.
this.
That's okay, my mom won't listen to it either.
Stop.
So why's that, Joe?
Tune in next time to find out.
Add it to the list of things we'll never know the answer to.
Yes.
It's one of those things that they always bring up, and it's like, next story.
Just like the Papa Slam.
Just like the Papa Slam.
Well, anyway, on the subject of Final Fantasy 13, Final Fantasy 15. What do you guys think?
I'll believe it when I see it.
It's gonna happen eventually, I'm sure.
I swear I was in high school when that game first was premiered.
You were.
You were.
We all were.
You were in, like, double high school.
You see, that's the thing. I am older than you people. I remember high school trailers for Final Fantasy 15 Versus.
Yeah, like, Sean, we were in middle school when that game got
Oh,
announced.
maybe we were.
Because that was your senior year of high school is when they announced. Because 15, back when it was 14, actually, that was originally 13
It was
Versus.
originally 13 Versus, yeah.
Yep.
And 13 came out, I want to say, in 2007?
Oh, wow.
2008?
It's been a while.
It's been a while
Since
since Final Fantasy
It was-
came out.
Here's the way I can remember it in my mental timeline is, it came out too late to be part of Kingdom Hearts, or Kingdom Hearts 2, but it was close enough to being concurrent that there were Final Fantasy 13 and Kingdom Hearts cosplayers at the same conventions.
Yes. And we know, for reference, that Kingdom Hearts 2 was 2005
Yes.
in its original English release.
So there you go.
Which, since those are games we'll be playing eventually, opinion on the final mix. On just it existing in general, not necessarily that we're playing. Because we are playing the final mix. Like, that's not up for debate.
Are we talking about Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix?
Both. Just why, like, the fact that they exist, what is your... Do you think that was a good decision? Do you have an opinion?
Well, Japan likes to keep things to themselves, and then when eventually they decide to give it to other people, they get to profit from it.
That is fair. It was a great way to make more money off of something that was 10 years old.
And speaking of which, Mix, what is it, 2.8 coming out?
HD 2.8 Rebirth.
At least the majority of 2.8
Subtitle, the one with Aqua in it.
it's a lot of at least a lot of that is new content.
Yeah.
Or at least important enough to the story that I don't mind spending more money on not Kingdom Hearts 3. Because 2.8 has the Birth by Sleep after chapter, which is supposed to be built in the same engine as Kingdom Hearts 3, I believe. So
Ooh.
that game will be as close to what Kingdom Hearts 3 is supposed to be as we're going to get till that game drops. It's got the Dream Drop Distance, HD remaster, so that's going to be interesting to play on a console. And I don't know what else is on that, because we're out of things to remake at that point.
Chain of Memories.
Oh yeah, I forgot. The full name of the game was Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue.
The book, the novel, by Fallout Boy.
Electric Boogaloo.
Dream Drop 358.
Over 2.
Over 2.
By Sleep.
That game was interesting. I very much consider it superior to Chain of Memories, even if its command system was, like, the prototype command system was weird. You could get through it really without using those. But it's hard to play through because it is very much the game of foregone conclusions, because by the time that game comes out, you know everything that happens.
Yeah, by the time that game came out, nobody cared about Roxas anymore.
But now you know he likes salty ice cream.
But you knew that from
But
Kingdom
sweet.
Hearts 2.
But now you know why he likes salty ice cream.
Because his original fake girlfriend died. Or didn't exist.
But they were all Sora all along.
They were all Sora all along.
Yeah, that's the secret of Kingdom Hearts. Everyone is either Sora or Xehanort. That's it. There are no other entities in the entire
Or a
universe.
math joke.
Yes.
Or just a joke. Like me.
Or
I'm
they
just kidding,
are
that was
a big
too
box
deep.
company with their name restructured.
Yensid.
Master Iraqus.
That was...
Yeah.
That was a fun one. His boss fight in Birth by Sleep is awful. It's one of those nitpicky ones where if you're not like the right level, you'll never win, and then you go grind once and come back and it's the easiest thing in the world.
Oh, I hate those.
At least Birth by Sleep has a specific world where you're able to go and grind.
Grind World. It's Tony Hawk Pro Skater World.
Oh my gosh, don't even get me started. Tony Hawk, that had the best music. That's why I'm such like an emo kid right now.
Oh
It's
my
because
god,
of
is that why?
The soundtrack,
This explains so much.
honestly, I wasn't ever a skater kid.
But that game's so fun.
But like when you're playing like Simple Plan Sum 41 in a music video, like on like the video game, how can you not try to kickflip? I tried to kickflip once in real life. It didn't really end.
Is that what happened to you?
That's why that's how I turned into the way that I am. I can like skateboard though. I can balance pretty decently actually.
That's
But-
something
Can
I've
you
never
skateboard
tried.
or can you balance on a skateboard? Those are two very
Well,
different
like
things.
I can like cruise control.
Caps lock is cruise control for cool.
Basically me on like a skateboard. But yeah.
It's something I've never tried.
Automatic
Never
shifting
really
or
attempted to skateboard ever.
One of my favorite things. I forget which game it was in, but obviously it was the one that came out somewhere between 1998 and 2000.
Is it the Tony Hawk Pro Skater with Darth Maul in it?
With Darth Maul.
Did I play that one?
Was that on 64?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, that
Was
was
it?
the one I played. That was my favorite one.
I think it was Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2.
Is it?
Wasn't there was
Well,
the first one? Was that on
So
64?
they were
Started on
they're
64,
probably both
yeah.
on 64 and PlayStation, but they stopped them on as far as
They did Xbox.
but Xbox came last.
Yeah.
So it was. I know one of them. I think the one with Darth Maul also had Spider-Man in it.
I think so.
So
It's just hilarious. Do you guys remember the Spider-Man 64 game? Am I the only one? All I remember is like swinging from like building to building. That's the only thing I can remember. Which is probably
I
the
think I
entire
remember
point.
about the old Spider-Man games was that he could swing no matter where he was, even if there wasn't really anything to grab on at all.
He was just
Yep.
like,
Spider-Man 64 the same as Spider-Man on the PlayStation 1, or were those two different Spider-Man games?
I don't know.
Spider-Man on the PlayStation 1 is a great game. It was very much done in the style of the old school like Spider-Man cartoon.
I think they were different games.
That's unfortunate
Rob.
because the PlayStation 1 I feel like was the better game.
It was.
I'll have to check it out.
You know what game is absolutely atrocious, though? Superman 64.
Never played it. Don't know anything about that.
Oh, man.
Oh, lordy.
I don't think I've ever even heard of that one.
You fly through rings.
Is that the game?
Oh,
That's the
I have.
game.
I've heard a little
And
bit about
maybe
that
you
one.
punch things.
Maybe.
You sometimes, maybe, definitely never punch stuff.
And Metropolis is kind of just these squares sticking into a very foggy green flat surface.
Materialize when they're right in front of you.
I mean, I was under the impression that most superhero game franchises have really not really kicked off or have gone kind of downhill, except for Batman.
It is pretty much the general consensus as of 2016 that the Arkham series is like the penultimate superhero gaming experience. Notable contenders for that title, though, Spider-Man 2 from back in the day,
Yeah.
just because that's the game that they kind of credit with, mastering web slinging as an art form. Sure, let's go with
Art.
that.
Well, what's the penultimate experience? What's the ultimate experience?
Ultimate Spider-Man.
Lol.
Well, there you go.
I mean, most of the Spider-Man games are pretty good. I haven't played it. To be fair, I haven't played the new ones. But
What was I think it was out for 360, but it was the one where you could go to different realities of Spider-Man.
Shattered Dimensions.
Never played that
That
one,
That sounds cool.
but I do remember that one. Like,
Excuse me.
It had a sequel too, so I imagine those are pretty good.
Shattered Dimensions was really fun, and they got a lot of old voice actors back, like even from the 60s and 70s cartoon.
that's pretty cool.
That's neat. I mean, as great as the Arkham games have been, there have been their fair share of awful Batman games. Like,
Oh yes.
let's give credit where credit is due. Like the Arkham games earned their spot because they had to overcome a mountain of garbage.
I mean, we might have to save it for a different episode or really talking about it in depth. But how about that Arkham VR?
We got about 10 minutes. We can cover Arkham VR.
Okay.
I have, because obviously it's not out yet. But from what little reading I've done into it, it's apparently only about an hour.
Oh.
Which I don't know
Wow.
I don't know what they're going to charge for it. I don't know if that is the standard for VR games. But from what I have seen, it seems incredibly well produced.
I mean, you saw that demo trailer, right? That initial one?
Yes.
For those of you who haven't seen it, you guys should look it up because it actually is pretty cool. But I am imagining a scenario where like there are thugs running after you and you have to fumble down to your utility belt to grab a Batarang and hope that you can get your hand up in time to throw it properly and hit something. So maybe there's going to be a little bit before like real gameplay for that is really going to get fleshed out.
Well, it's because I think part of the VR rig is you have to have at least on PlayStation, you have to have the PlayStation Move
Right.
set up. So I've never used the PlayStation Move, even though I have games that have like listed it as a control option before, like Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls.
Right.
That's not something I have experience with, but it seems to be kind of critical at this juncture of VR, so it will probably be something similar to like the old school arcade shooters where it's like flick the gun to the side to reload, or it's going to be like, like flick your wrist down to like Batarang or something.
I mean, that's true. Or, even if like real fast-paced action-packed VR isn't really in the near future, like they could really do a lot with the whole like forensic crime solving, like maybe sort of like that kind of Batman game out of the VR.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd be happy with like an Arkham scale, Batcave touring simulator.
Just walk around the house.
Either combat or forensics, like forensics like you were saying. I feel like that would work a lot better with the Kinect than Move, because that just watches your hands and your body language, and you're not stuck holding a stick.
I feel like there needs to be a balance of the two, because while Kinect is great for tracking your whole body, it is not great at tracking specific points. Well, it depends. Like, because the dance games usually are very well calibrated, but outside of those, I have yet to see a Kinect game that is complete.
Child of Eden.
I mean, I feel like a true accurate VR like experience isn't really going to get accomplished unless you're wearing like a full like motion capture suit.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say, is something that works more like a motion capture suit. Even if it's not a full one, I think it would have to be at least something that's similar.
Which, not that playing video games is like always a social endeavor, but I'm just imagining you like in your room in a mocap suit, just like playing a game.
Your mom's just like, dinner! Like, Mom, I'm fighting crime.
She opens the door and you're just wriggling against a wall because you're supposed to be Spider-Man. And
You're actually against the wall, like you've got suction cups and you're just like making this dream a reality.
Just in
Like,
this spandex suit covered in golf balls.
And how expensive would that be?
your mom's like, I did not buy golf balls for you to do this.
But opening the door like ruins the virtual environment and you didn't save, so you have to restart the entire game.
I would never talk to my mom again. Yeah. Oh man, that would just make me so... Parents just don't understand.
Fresh Prince.
It's a solid show.
Ooh. I love Fresh Prince. What is your favorite show, Joe? Tell me your favorite show.
My favorite shoujo?
Shoujo.
Oh,
Mojo
no.
Shoujo.
Well, my favorite shoujo would probably be All Around High School Host Club.
Oh, honestly?
Yes.
That's incredible. I actually just watched that for the first time. Not the
Mojo Shoujo.
Mojo Shoujo? Is that Mojo,
Mojo
Jojo
Shoujo.
but like in a fuku?
He's actually a drag queen. It's Mojo Shoujo.
Leave a comment if you're gonna make us some art of Mojo Shoujo.
Please don't. Oh, gosh.
Please do.
Can you handle that many bubbles?
Oh, I can.
Sean, what is your favorite show? If you could pick an all-time favorite.
Man, dude, TV hasn't
Love
really
that
been
show.
something that TV hasn't really been something that's been in my life for a little bit.
Mhm.
So favorite show is kind of hard. I mean,
Say the wire.
Dan, your favorite show is not my favorite show. We'll get to you.
My favorite show is everybody's favorite show. Because we are the collective.
I mean, that's tough. I don't know. Like,
A show that it doesn't necessarily have to be your favorite. I guess just one that you like. It's on. And you're like, okay, cool. Or one that you could just watch and be like, oh, next episode. Okay, next episode. Or like you want to definitely follow up and you're like excited to be like, oh, what happens next?
I mean, for pure nostalgia and the fact that I've seen like pretty much everything about it, I'd probably go with like Avatar series.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, you know,
I've actually
That's a good answer.
never seen the Avatar series.
you should, it's a good time.
That needs to change.
I know.
Um,
I want to. I just look for the. I'm just trying to find time because I really want to dedicate time to like really get into it.
It's definitely worth it. As for a show that I can just watch if it's on, SpongeBob.
That's such a great answer.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Even today, or just classic SpongeBob?
Well, I think the classic SpongeBob is definitely like top.
I think the SpongeBob after the SpongeBob movie was released, that was when it started
Yeah.
to. Apparently, they're canceling SpongeBob in
Are you-
2017.
Really?
Yeah, I saw online because everything you read online is true. I don't know. I didn't look into it. It was just like one of those like articles, and it was like something October 2017. Or, I don't know if it was October, but it was. Some...
I'd be really happy if they canceled SpongeBob. I'm just gonna throw that out there. It's
time to go.
It's time to go.
It's been on for a while.
My actual favorite show was Sons of Anarchy, by the way.
Sons of Anarchy.
So Dan, what's your favorite show?
Well, are we talking live action or animated?
One of each. You can pick one.
One of each.
Yeah.
So. Well, I'm so glad you
Ooh,
asked.
he had to sit up, audience. He from a slouched position was determined to get up to inform us.
Oh, I'm glad you asked. My favorite show is the Wire. It was produced by HBO from 2002 to 2008. It's got a box DVD and Blu-ray set currently available. I highly recommend everybody check out this show. All plugging aside, it is, in my opinion, probably one of the best television shows ever put to film, and I would go so far as to call it a cinematic masterpiece. It tells the story of the rise and fall of the American city and the decay of the American dream. So, that, and we live on the East Coast, and where it takes place is like 40 minutes away. So, there's that.
Interesting. And your favorite animated?
The animated stuff, I really like the Fate series, plural. Fate Zero, Fate, and Unlimited Blade Works. Those are a lot of fun. I like history, and it takes history and adds magic and makes them fight each other. So, that's always a good time.
Awesome. Cool. I would say when it comes to TV shows with me, I get really, really invested. I don't do like cable TV. I don't have cable in my room. I just use like Netflix, and I have like a projector in my room, so I just watch them. One thing I like about having Netflix is just I can just binge, because that's what I do is I binge watch. I need to know what happens next. I'm currently starting Grey's Anatomy for the third time. Grey's Anatomy will take your heart, rip it out, push one of Epi, and call code blue. It's awful. It's a lovely show, but it's awful. So I really get into shows. I've watched all of Friends. I've watched all 10 seasons of Friends. I actually watched that in about a month. So I used to have like the amount of hours. It was really sad, and I stopped telling people because they were just like, "You don't have a life." So I really like Friends. Friends is one of my all-time favorite TV shows. I would say it's just a really fun show to watch. I really like just the cheesy TV shows. They're just really funny.
I mean, the collective of Friends is like, what, 120 hours or something like that?
Like I said, we don't have to talk about all the time that I spent dedicated to that. I ordered a lot of pizza and a lot of Chinese takeout and stayed in my room a lot that 1 month. But I finished it, and that was the accomplishment. People were like, "What'd you do this summer?" Everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I went to Japan and I went to Europe and toured this and this. What did you do, Ashley?" And I'm like, "Oh, just hung out with some friends." All 10 seasons. But yeah, I would say like Friends, but every now and then I come and go with with what shows I like, because I watch a lot of TV shows. If anyone ever has any recommendations for shows, please tweet me at Smirshna with 3 A's, SMRCINAAA. Tweet me and tell me what shows I should watch, because I am always on the lookout for a new show. Yeah. T.
My favorite show would be Frasier. From the
Yes!
late 90s into the early 2000s.
For those of you who want a visual cue, Joe just did 3 fist bumps in
And
the air.
it was lovely.
It's a great...
Early 90s, by the way.
Okay, my bad. I guess it ran for 11 seasons, so...
Well, and it had to run long enough that it was able to spin out of Cheers, which was a long-running show in its own right.
And ended in the early 2000s, after spinning out of Cheers. So, yeah, it's one of the few spin-off shows that is arguably more successful than its predecessor.
Well, it ran double the length, I think, right?
Cheers ran for about 8 seasons, I think.
Yeah.
Or it didn't run for 11.
So it didn't do better.
I don't remember if it's 8 or 10 or what. It's not half, but it's not as long.
That's actually on my list of things to watch, shows to watch.
Point is, Kelsey Grammer ended up playing the role of Frasier Crane for about 20 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thereabouts. A little over, maybe. And he does a very good job.
And then he was in an X-Men movie that nobody likes to talk about.
Womp womp womp.
And then a Transformers movie that people also don't like to talk about.
He did a good job, though.
I enjoyed that movie. The dinosaurs made things fun.
I enjoyed 3/4 of that movie. Yeah, it's Marky Mark talks to robots. See the 90s vintage Saturday Night Live sketch, Mark Wahlberg talks to animals for that one?
Anyway, that looks like it's about it for us. Detention's letting out. I'm Dan.
I'm Joe.
I'm Sean, and I'm going to try to not end up here again.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Ashley.
We'll see you guys whenever.